Let's go all the way down to the memory. Here we go. So this is telling us about the memory information. I have 8 gig of mem. This is what I have free. This is what I'm caching. Swap total, swap free. So this information helps you. If I typically seen systems with, let's say, 8 or 12 gig of memory, and all of a sudden they have 24 megs left. Something's happening. Either a memory leak or rebuild. Something is draining the memory at an incredible state, possibly halting the GUI. So this is where this information helps us lead to try to find the needle in the haystack, so to speak. So we are acting as detectives as well as doctors at the same time, so to speak. Now, I purposefully set the RAID controller to use a performance hindrance. So I kind of did some mixed drives to show some values here. Typically on some RAID controllers, especially with the write-back cache, you should see better numbers than this. We do have a tool where you can test your RAID controllers before you ship them out the door, before you implement it into a production environment, that there's a little small update that we can give you information on your read-writes on your RAID set. Typically on a very impressive RAID controller that I currently have, which is the 9280, this number should be all the way up to 200s. So right now I'm not performing well. So I made this happen so that way you can view and see this yourselves. So you're looking at typical numbers of anywhere between, you want to get to about 150 all the way up to, I've seen the best performances up to 500 plus megabytes per second. This is the SDB. This is the USB module that I have in place, so it's using about 19 megabytes per second. There's a question, tool, just email me, and there's questions, where can you run this tool to be able to test your RAID array, and also I do have one for the NICs too to get you true performance. Email me and I will send you this small update that you can use into the console screen. It's actually in Control-Alt-T for tools, and it's called add-ons. And in add-ons, you'll see where you can test your RAID array and your volume, so you can see what speed you're getting. So just go ahead and email me. This information here talks about the memory usage again, but what's mostly important is CPU loads. Typically, when we have seen some case studies where even with cores, many cores, this would spike up dramatically. So something could be happening. If you start seeing, let's say, 19%, watch out. Something else is happening to cause those systems to use all core processors. I've seen in one case, it was unbelievable, that there was 4 quad cores, and every one of them were above 97.5%. Obviously, we have a problem. So in that case, we found out that there were some RAID issues, and what was happening is that it was using all cores in memory on a 24 terabyte system that was using the XFS file repair system tool that we have. And it was trying to help build it and fix it and repair it. If we scroll down, this is irrelevant right now. It just tells us what ports are open. Let's just keep going. These are the ports, UDP, Unix ports. Here we go, the netstat. This is the next thing we look at, is due to, because, okay, we see it's a performance issue. The RAID controllers, it could be the RAID controllers, but we saw that let's say the write-back cache was enabled. Maybe the drives, okay, let's go and take advantage. Maybe they are in good working order and they are server drives. Could it be possibly the NICs? I've seen cases where the speed only shows 100 megs, as we previously talked in the D message logs. So here we're seeing E5, E6 in good standing order. But look at the logs and see for yourself if you're actually reporting those speeds. So you want to check that each NIC, now D unknown, that means I have a 10 gig NIC in here. And currently I'm using the SMC 10 gig E, and that's what's going to show that. Also, if we scroll down, this is very important, because then if it's not the RAID controllers, possibly there could be dropped packets. We have seen disconnects from auto failover due to because there's some inconsistencies on the network or there's some type of issue on the network. And here we would have to investigate from the DRBD logs or what volume replication NIC you're using. So you can see there's a lot of work involved into understanding the logs, what's actually happening to your system. So we would look at each of the network interfaces. And if you're using volume replication, which NIC is being used for volume replication? Are there drop packets coming from the receive side or drop packets going from the out, the TX, the transmit side? In one case, I saw many drop packets on the receive side was coming from a VMware system to a target, and we were seeing unbelievable amounts of drop packets into the 4,000 range. So that'll cause problems. And also you'll see in bond mode, typically you'll see bond mode up here, bond 0, with the associated NICs. The other problems that we do see is that sometimes the MTU, maximum transfer unit size, is that it is the jumbo frame settings. So in some cases I have seen customers having issues of mixed data error matches, problems with connectivity, and what they'll do is they'll forget that they've enabled the jumbo frames, let's say on this Ethernet NIC 6, and it need to be on the switch end and also on the host end. And what would happen is they made a change, a network administrator, he comes in, makes a change for his switch, and thus he didn't correct the same matching size. So if you're going to have 9,000 here, or if you make some changes with 9,000 for 9,016, or in 10 gig E, you'll be even higher. Make sure that they match end to end. So all devices that are communicating. So this is very important. When we look at the ifconfig logs in the test.log, that we're seeing the output that it's clean. So we want to make sure there's no errors, no drop packets, no overruns, and lost frames. You also can verify that the transfer speed is 1,000 or 1,000 megabytes. This tells us how much information you're transferring. So here it's very light, and here's megabytes. So typically we see in the terabyte range or gigabyte range. And of course all the NICs associated with the bond. Right after that, then we see the route tables, the IP route tables. Here I have a gateway to here. So that way I know that this destination is set for a gateway for this NIC, which is on my 200 network. So I would research where my ADS server, let's say, is on what NIC. Well, I found out that it's going to be E5. So you want a reference to that. The rest of the information we're going to scroll on down that I think that are relevant to, because these are the IP routes, the show tables, and then of course the module information. Let's scroll all the way down to, and these are some of the modules, like if I were to find out what firmware you're running on the RAID controller, I would be able to search for this in here. So you can see there's a lot. You can use the edit command to look for the LSI RAID controller. So let's go all the way down to some other information I think is very important for you to know. So you can see there's just a lot of information that you can go on. Okay. This talks about the devices of where we install it. Typically, where we install DSS V6 or what your volume is, or what device you've created your volume from. So here I have showing me, and when I do an F-disk, is that SDA is I have a volume of 1.49 terabyte. Now the SDB, if you remember, we looked at the hard drive parameters. We saw that the performance was 19.x meg. So this would tell me, okay, I see that this customer has installed DSS V6 on a 1 gig USB DOM. A lot of times when you do an installation, you get customers that I'm not sure which volume I should overwrite. You can download the logs and verify through here. This also tells me that the physical volume size that I'm showing here, SDA, is volume group VG00. And then I have 1.36 after formatting, and then I have 856 gig free. And of course, this provides more of the information about the volume group, formatted under logical volume 2. This tells us the volume group size. This tells us the allocation in free and the ID. Now we get into the logical volume. So here, this is information about the logical volume that is created on VG00. That's logical volume 00 resides on that volume group, because you may have more than one volume group. And you can see all of them are listed here. Then we have a very short scan version of it. So this helps us tell us what volume group, if it's, here we see that if we look at this right here, I can tell that this is a iSCSI volume. So AO means active online. And here you can see that this is a NAS logical volume. And we have 250 gig and so forth. So this provides us information all about the logical volumes that you have. Let's scroll all the way down to where I want to take you next. Obviously, this shows you about the Intel RAID controller, the system module I'm using. So you see that's the SAS RAID controller right here. And now we get into where a lot of times you're going to see information on iSCSI targets. And I don't know if I've loaded that up on here. I'm trying to verify if I did. Looks like my target information. Yes. Here I'm showing that the sessions is from this target 00 that I have. And here my name is Ty, and I connected to it through my PC. There's a question, is there a manual or a guide for reading logs? No, it is too vast and huge. I would have to dedicate a lot of resources to read manuals, and it would be a manual bigger than our manual of just DSS V6. Because you can see what he's asking, there is a plethora of information. I do have a guide to kind of point you to what files are very important to look at, or what they kind of reference to. So, you know, that I do have, and of course I think that I'll be doing another webinar for the log files, because as you can see, it's an art to learn it, and it can take time. I've been with OpenE for almost 5 years, and I'm still learning, so it does take time. But this, there's some information, just like on the net.config with all the NICs. This tells us information of if you have any bonds or what gateways you have set up for.